Hey up everybody and welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today I am going to be sharing with you some kind of cheap gem picks that you can put onto your official Tour de France fantasy teams. Of course, we are at the first rest day now, so a bit of chance to take stock of your team and analyse and potentially think about some transfers that you might make moving forwards. I certainly am thinking of maybe using my first transfer to take out Filippo Ganna, considering that he's dropped out of GC now, and I think that I will share with you who I'm going to put in there later on in the video. But let's go and have a look at some of these cheap riders that you can fill out the rest of your team with. Usually when you're looking at these sort of riders, you're looking more towards people who could get into breakaways or who could potentially do quite well in a sprint if you can find them. So what classifies as a cheap rider is relatively kind of different from person to person, but I'm going to classify it as anything that is 12 stars or less. So let's just have a look at them. You've got Carlos Verona. I think he's a great one for 12. He won a stage of the Dauphiné, and he has lost just a little bit of time. He lost 40 seconds yesterday on stage 3, which might make him a little bit more likely to go into the breakaway, perhaps on a stage 7 of the Super Planche de Belfi, especially when you consider that there is going to be the stage 5 cobbled stage. It might be worthwhile saving your transfer until after the stage 5 cobbled stage, because that will be the day which lots of climbers might lose time on purpose to try and get into subsequent breakaways in the following days. So it might be worth just holding fire until after stage 5. Christophe Laporte has been steadily picking up some points for Jumbo-Visma. Of course, unfortunately, he crashed in that opening TT, but as the lead-out man for Wout van Aert, he generally picks up intermediate sprint points and also can sometimes finish inside the top 10 of some stages. Yves Lampaert, of course, would have been a great one to have at the start, but probably isn't worthwhile putting on at this moment because that boat has kind of been and sailed. Then you've got Matteo Jorgensen, another good one for Movistar, whether he might be allowed in a breakaway. I slightly prefer his counterpart Carlos Verona, but Jorgensen is still another good climber for that Movistar team. Magnus Cort Nielsen, of course, is in the polka dot jersey right now, so he is picking up 30 points every day, and of course he is likely to hold on to that up until likely Planche de Belfi on stage 7, so you could put him on now and then get a couple of daily points worth of the mountains classification. That is a pretty good strategy. Of course, Danny Van Poppel has been doing well in the sprint so far. He finished 4th in that sprint on stage 2. He's a very good one to pick as well. Barguil regularly gets in the breakaways as well. He of course won the mountains classification back in 2017. Michael Storer did really well at the Vuelta last year from lots of mountainous breakaways. I'm definitely kind of saving him probably for stage 7. I think that he could be a very good one, and for 11 stars we are getting into kind of the very cheap riders now. You got Leonard Kemner. He is a breakaway specialist, and as you can see currently he is in my team. Of course he is a bit high up on GC now, but it's very possible that he could lose time on that stage 5 cobble stage and then go into the breakaways from then on. Bettiol has looked very good recently as well. He's a good rouleur, probably good for those kind of stages like ones which go into Saint-Etienne, for example, which are relatively rolling terrain but not mountainous. He would be a candidate for lots of those. Quinn Simmons we haven't seen much of in this race so far, but I think that's because he's protecting Mads Pedersen. But he is a rider who seems to like to go for the KOM classification, so certainly watch out for him when we start to hit more of the mountainous terrain. For 10 stars, he's also incredibly cheap. I think that's a good one for you could go with. Ugo Hofstetter has been picking up steadily some top 10 placings in sprints, so you could put him on for the next few stages if you so wish, but might be a bit of a waste when you consider that you'll be likely taking him off when it comes to the mountainous terrain again. So it might be worthwhile putting on somebody who's a bit more of a climber. Moving down into the 9-star riders now, you've got Andrea Baggioli for the Quick Step Alpha Vinyl team. He's a great puncher, did very well at the Vuelta last year. He's probably going to be their candidate of choice for something like stage 6 into Longwy, but also into the breakaways in the mountainous terrain later on. For 9 stars, that is a really good bargain. I don't really see too much value in that. Pedro over is Alexis Vuillermoz, who did win a stage of the Criterium du Dauphiné just a few weeks ago. You've also got Andreas Klon. He looked very good at the recent Tour de Suisse. He's a very good puncher for Lotto Soudal. The only issue with Klon is that there's also Tim Vellens on the team, and those two are a very similar type of rider, so you might pick the wrong one. But Colon for 8 stars is a very good choice, and I think that he would be a great option for you to choose if you are needing to really save some stars at this point. Now, Victor Lafay again looked very good at the Dauphiné. He seems to be more of like a puncher rather than a climber. Perhaps doesn't go too well over the high mountainous terrain, but very good on those kind of medium mountain stages. Lafay would be a good choice for you to put onto your teams. Moving down into the 6-star riders now. There isn't too much to shout about here. You could potentially say Mikhail Morkov, because he did finish top 20 in the sprint yesterday, which is relatively high up, and as a lead-out man he is likely to do that again in some of the sprints. So for 6 stars he's a relatively safe one to go with. Looking down a little bit further, you've got Simon Geschke. He's a good climber for Cofidis. He is definitely a candidate to get into the breakaways. Ugo Uhl is surprisingly good at climbing, is surprisingly well rounded. I think that he, for 5 stars again, you're getting into very low risk riders here. I think that a lot of these are very good. You've got Jeremy Lecroc, who has finished quite well in the sprints as well. I think that for 5 he's probably the best one at the moment for the sprint stages when it gets towards the mountainous terrain. I don't think he would be the best. I think that Nick Schultz would likely be the best 5-star rider when it comes to the mountainous terrain, because he is the only real climber that Bike Exchange Jayco have on their team, so therefore he is the candidate for them to go into those mountainous terrains. And he is also relatively punchy, which means that he could do well on that stage 6 into Longwy. But other than that, there aren't too many other riders that I want to really talk about. Maybe Georges Zimmermann for Intermarché, Wanty Gobert. He could be another candidate that you could go with. But now that I've gone through those riders, I want to talk about what I'm thinking of doing with Ganna. In my opinion, what I might do is put on Magnus Cort Nielsen, just because I then get those guaranteed points for the King of the Mountains classification, probably for stages 4, 5, 6, and maybe even stage 7. And he seems to be fairly keen on this classification. He's the only rider who's got points in it so far. I think that he could go quite long in this competition until we get towards likely stages like 11 and 12 of a very mountainous terrain. So I think that I might put Magnus Cort Nielsen in instead of Filippo Ganna, and then I will see what goes from then on forwards. The rest of the team is doing okay. We've got lots of riders inside the top 10 in GC, picking up steady points, and I think I'm quite happy with the rest of it, but I think I might take Ganna off. But let me know, are you thinking of making any transfers at this point in the race? Is there anybody on your team who has perhaps let you down and you're going to swap off? And what kind of riders are you thinking of putting on? Breakaway riders, sprinters? Put them all in the comments down below. And all that is left to say is to keep safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!